You might think you're just being a nice guy, attentive, caring, respectful. But here's the cold truth. You may be humiliating yourself for women, and you don't even realize it. And worse, that very behavior is what's pushing them away, killing your chances of being seen as someone desirable, respected, and valued. Most men don't even notice they've fallen into this trap. They confuse desperation with devotion, obsession with affection. But today, all of that changes. In the next few minutes, you're going to uncover the 10 hidden signs that you're degrading yourself in front of women. And no, we're not talking about begging on your knees. This humiliation is far more subtle, far more dangerous. It's in the way you text, the way you react, the way you prioritize her over your purpose. These small behaviors seem harmless, but they slowly strip you of your power. And when a man gives away his power, he loses everything. Think about that guy who replies instantly to every message, who cancels his own plans just because she sent a "hey," who spends more time trying to impress her than building himself. That guy is ignored, rejected, ghosted, and left wondering why. But the answer is brutally simple. He's no longer seen as a prize. He's seen as a doormat. And no woman chases what's always available, always predictable, always desperate. This video isn't for the weak. It's for the man who's tired of being overlooked. It's for the man who's ready to rebuild, to reclaim his identity, to reprogram his entire mindset through the lens of Stoic psychology. If you're done being the option and ready to become the priority, this video will open your eyes to what's been holding you back. If you've ever felt like you gave too much and received nothing in return, like your efforts only pushed her away, this is your moment. Watch until the very end, because the final sign will reveal is the most silent, most dangerous, and most common mistake men make. And chances are, you've done it without even noticing. Before we dive in, take a second right now to hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and drop a comment below saying, "I choose my value." That small act alone sets the tone for what you're about to absorb. This isn't just advice, it's a wake-up call. And by the end of this video, you'll never see yourself or the game of attraction the same way again. You think you're just being attentive. You answer quickly, compliment her constantly, offer help without being asked. It seems innocent, kind even. But what if I told you that those small actions are exactly what's killing your value? One of the earliest signs that you're humiliating yourself without realizing it is when you place her comfort above your self-respect. You see her pulling away, giving you cold responses, showing little interest, but instead of stepping back, you lean in. You double down. You send that follow-up text. You try to reignite her attention with another compliment. What you don't realize is, in that moment, you've taught her that your value depends on her validation, that you're willing to lose your dignity for a little attention. And once a woman knows that, she loses all desire to chase. The game is over, and you've already lost. Another subtle sign is when you adjust your entire schedule for her. Cancel plans, skip the gym, abandon your routine just to be available. You believe that showing up every time she calls will earn you points. But in reality, it communicates one thing. You have nothing going on in your life that's more important than her. That screams low value. High-value men don't drop their purpose for anyone. They make time for others, but never at the cost of their mission. A woman can sense when you live for her approval instead of for your own vision. And when that happens, she stops respecting you. Respect dies before attraction ever gets the chance to grow. Then there's the emotional overexposure. You open up too quickly. You confess how much you like her way too soon. You talk about how different she is from other women before she's even earned that pedestal. This isn't vulnerability. It's desperation wrapped in fake emotional honesty. You're trying to fast-track intimacy, hoping she'll reciprocate, but she won't. Because true intimacy isn't given. It's earned through challenge, mystery, and time. When you hand your heart to someone who hasn't proven they deserve it, you're not being deep. You're being weak. Let's talk about compliments. You tell her she's beautiful, amazing, the most incredible woman you've ever met. And yet she barely responds. Why? Because your words are too available. You give them away without requiring anything in return. You're not making her feel special. You're showing her how little you value yourself. Women don't respect men who worship them. They respect men who are selective. A compliment from a man who holds himself to high standards is powerful. A compliment from a man who gives them to everyone is background noise. If your words cost nothing, they mean nothing. Another red flag is when you're constantly seeking reassurance. You ask, "Did you enjoy our date? Do you want to see me again? Are you mad at me?" These questions reveal your insecurity. They scream, "Please validate me." And women don't chase men who beg for emotional crumbs. When you chase certainty in a world of uncertainty, you hand her control. And no woman desires the man she controls. She might tolerate you, keep you around, but she'll never chase you. The moment you start needing constant confirmation, you become unattractive. Not because you're emotional, but because you've placed your self-worth in someone else's hands. Let's go deeper. Ever notice how you feel anxious when she doesn't reply? How you keep checking your phone, overanalyzing her last message, wondering if you said something wrong? That anxiety comes from attachment, and attachment comes from putting her on a pedestal. A stoic man recognizes that silence is information. If she's not replying, it's a sign, not a mystery. And instead of reacting with panic, he shifts focus. He goes to the gym. He works. He detaches. Because his value isn't defined by a message bubble. But if your mood is controlled by her replies, you've already submitted. That's humiliation disguised as interest. Then there's the passive waiting. You keep yourself on standby. You wait for her to message first, to make plans, to initiate contact. You call it giving space, but really, it's fear of rejection. You're waiting like a servant, hoping to be called into her presence. Meanwhile, she's living her life, forgetting you exist. A man who waits without building, who pauses his mission for a maybe, isn't respected. Women are drawn to men in motion, men who live with purpose regardless of who's watching. If you're sitting by your phone hoping she'll remember you, understand this: she won't. Not until you walk away and become the man she can't ignore. You've also probably experienced this. You laugh at jokes that aren't funny. You agree with opinions you don't hold. You nod your head just to keep the peace. All of this to avoid conflict and increase likability. But here's the truth. By doing that, you become invisible. You erase your identity to fit into hers, and no woman falls in love with a shadow. A man who can't disagree, who doesn't challenge, who avoids tension at all costs, is not a man. He's a mirror, and mirrors might be useful, but they're never desired. A real man holds his ground, not to argue, but to be real. And realness is rare. Rare is attractive. One of the most dangerous signs of hidden humiliation is overinvestment. You buy her gifts, you offer favors, you solve problems that aren't yours, all without her asking. You call it generosity, but it's manipulation. You're trading effort for attention. And whether you admit it or not, you expect a return. That makes your kindness transactional, not authentic. Women feel this. They know when you're doing too much. And instead of being grateful, they feel pressure. Pressure turns to guilt, and guilt turns to distance. That's why they pull away. Not because you gave too little, but because you gave too much without being asked. A stoic man gives without needing. He doesn't bribe affection. He earns it. Finally, we arrive at the invisible cage, emotional dependence. You feel good when she's present, miserable when she's not. Your sense of peace is tied to her attention. That's not love. That's imprisonment. And the key to escape is within you. When you let her actions dictate your emotions, you surrender your manhood. True freedom comes from knowing that nothing external can shake your inner world. That's stoic mastery. That's silent power. And that's what she'll chase, not the man who reacts, but the man who remains unshaken. What truly separates men who are chased from men who are ignored is not money, looks, or charm. It's the quiet, unshakable sense of inner worth that refuses to beg for attention. And the next sign that you're unknowingly humiliating yourself for women is when you initiate every single interaction. You're always the one to say good morning, to ask how she's doing, to check in if she's okay. You think consistency will win her over, but it only confirms her power. When someone knows you'll always reach out, They have zero incentive to do anything, zero effort, zero initiative. It's not that she's too busy, it's that you've removed the mystery. And once mystery dies, so does attraction. High-value men don't chase, they attract. They're not cold, they're selective. They make space for those who earn it. Every message you send first without reciprocation chips away at your value, until she no longer sees you as a man, but as an emotional backup plan. That's not where you want to live. There's another form of self-humiliation that most men never recognize. You tolerate disrespect. She cancels plans last minute. She flirts with other men in front of you. She teases you with mixed signals. And instead of calling it out or walking away, you stay silent. You tell yourself she's just confused, that maybe you're overreacting. But deep down, you know you feel disrespected. You know your standards are being violated. Still, you don't speak. Why? Because you fear that setting boundaries will push her away. So you swallow your voice just to keep her close. But in doing so, you lose yourself. And the more you tolerate, the more she tests. Disrespect grows when it goes unchallenged. It multiplies in silence. And what starts as playful teasing becomes outright emotional abuse. You're not being patient. You're being passive. And passivity is never respected. Not by her, not by yourself. Real men don't raise their voice, they raise their standards. And if she can't meet them, she's not for you. Another brutal sign. You let your happiness depend on how she treats you. If she's kind, your mood lifts. If she's distant, your world crashes. This is emotional slavery. You've given her a switch to control your state. And every time you let her flip it, you lose more of your identity. A stoic man detaches from emotional volatility. He doesn't suppress his feelings. He observes them. He doesn't get numb. He gets clear. His peace is not for sale. His value isn't on trial. He shows up whole and leaves whole. And whether she stays or goes, he remains centered. That's what makes him magnetic. That's why people want his presence. Because he doesn't need them, he chooses them. And only when you stop needing do you start receiving. Let's talk about over-apologizing. You say sorry for things that don't even need apologies. She didn't reply. You apologize for bothering her. She seems off. You ask if you did something wrong. You're apologizing for existing. That's not humility. It's insecurity dressed in fake kindness. And women sense it immediately. When a man apologizes too much, it signals he sees himself as inferior, that he feels undeserving. And if you feel undeserving, why would she treat you otherwise? Apologies should be rare and meaningful, not a habit. Real men own their mistakes without bending their spine. They say, "I was wrong once," and then move forward with strength. But the man who's always sorry, always shrinking, always doubting himself, he becomes forgettable. Respect and pity don't live in the same space, and you're not here to be pitied. One of the most ignored signs is pretending to be someone. You're not just to keep her interested. You act more confident than you feel. You say you like the same music, shows, or values, just to stay aligned. You suppress your opinions because you fear they might trigger conflict. In doing this, you become a character, not a man. And even if it works short-term, it destroys you long-term, because you end up stuck in a persona you can't maintain. You end up exhausted, resentful, and disconnected from who you really are. Attraction built on false identity is unstable. It collapses the moment truth appears. A stoic man doesn't mold himself to be liked. He reveals himself and lets the right people stay. Authenticity is rare. That's why it's irresistible. Be real, and those who stay will value the real you. Those who leave were never meant for you anyway. Let's not ignore the silent killer, expecting her to complete you. You wait for her to respond so you can feel worthy. You want her to admire you so you can believe you're enough. You try to impress her, hoping she'll reflect something, back to make you feel important. This is a fantasy. No woman can complete you. No external person will ever make you whole. That's your job. That's your responsibility. And the longer you wait for someone else to give you what you haven't given yourself, the more you suffer. Wholeness begins with you. You must become the man who doesn't need to be fixed, chased, or saved. You are the anchor, not the wave. And when you realize that, everything changes. Another powerful sign. You prioritize her potential over her behavior. You see red flags but ignore them. You cling to the version of her you hope she'll become, not the one she's showing you. Now, you justify toxicity with excuses like she's just healing or she's been hurt before. You tolerate chaos because you've fallen for the idea, not the reality. That's self-deception, that's self-betrayal, and every time you do it, you train yourself to accept less than you deserve. A stoic man doesn't live in illusions. He sees people as they are, not as he wishes they were. He doesn't attach to potential. He aligns with reality. And if someone can't meet him there, he walks, not out of bitterness, but out of self-respect. Now let's talk about the last and most dangerous sign. You forget your mission. You abandon your goals. You neglect your body, your finances, your growth, all to make space for her. You were building something, but now you're waiting for her to like you, waiting for her to commit, waiting for her to choose you. But while you wait, you stop becoming. And the moment you stop becoming, you stop being attractive. A man with no mission is like a boat with no direction, adrift, uncertain, forgettable. The moment you lose your purpose, you lose your power. A stoic man puts mission first, not because he's cold, but because he understands that purpose is what anchors everything else. Without purpose, love turns to obsession. Without direction, desire turns to chaos. Your mission isn't something you pursue after she loves you. It's what makes her love you in the first place. It's what draws her in. It's what keeps you grounded, so if you've lost it, find it again. And if you haven't found it, start looking. Because when you live for something greater than approval, you become the man no one forgets. Now you've seen the truth. These aren't just random behaviors. They're silent killers of your masculinity, your presence, your power. And here's the good news. All of them can be reversed. Not by chasing her, not by trying harder, but by turning inward, by mastering yourself, by living the Stoic code. Control what you can, detach from what you can't, and never, ever trade your value for validation. Because the moment you do, you stop being a man and start being a puppet. You were not born to beg. You were born to build, and the woman who sees that will chase you. Now that we've exposed the invisible chains that have held you back, the question that remains is this: what kind of man do you choose to be from this moment on? Because here's the truth that most won't tell you. Every time you humiliate yourself for a woman, every time you chase, beg, or shrink your presence just to be noticed, you're not only losing her respect, you're losing your own. And without self-respect, there's no confidence, no power, no peace. This isn't just about attraction. It's about becoming the man you were born to be. The man who walks into a room and doesn't need to speak to command presence. The man who doesn't react to tests because he knows exactly who he is. The man whose silence screams louder than others' noise. That man isn't made by accident. He is forged through awareness, discipline, and painful self-honesty. So let's reflect. Have you been chasing validation? Have you confused attention with affection? Have you made her the center of your emotional world while you abandoned your own center? If the answer is yes, understand that you're not weak, you're untrained. No one taught you this. The world didn't prepare you for these truths. But now you know. And once you know, there's no going back. You can't pretend you don't see it. You can't unfeel the shame that comes when you realize how much of your identity was built around seeking approval. But shame isn't the enemy. It's the fuel. Use it. Let it burn away the old version of you. The boy who needed to be chosen. The man who mistook being available for being valuable. Let that version die today. You're stepping into a new path now. One where your actions are no longer reactions. Where you wake up every morning not to prove yourself to anyone, but to fulfill the mission that only you were called to carry. You no longer ask, does she like me? Instead, you ask, am I proud of the man I am today? That is the standard. And the beauty of Stoic psychology is that it gives you back what you've lost. Control. control over your mind, your emotions, your path. No more games, no more pretending, no more hoping someone else will validate the power you've always had within. You validate yourself now. You crown yourself now. And when you live like that, something wild happens. The world begins to treat you differently. Women look at you with curiosity, not because you're trying to impress them, but because you're no longer trying at all. You're just being calm, grounded, unmoved. You speak less, but when you do, it matters. You don't chase, but when you give your presence, it's felt. You don't need love, but when you choose to give it, it's pure, because it comes from fullness, not emptiness. You're no longer a man looking to be filled. You are the fullness itself. The modern world will try to pull you back into the chaos. Social media, culture, even some friends, they'll tell you to chase harder, text again, buy her flowers, prove yourself. Don't listen. That path leads to dependence. That path ends with resentment. Your path is different now. Your path is the Stoic path. It's not louder, it's deeper, it's not reactive, it's rooted. It's not designed to impress others. It's built to fulfill your potential. And if you stay on it day after day, you become something very few men ever become. Unshakable. And unshakable men don't chase. They build. They lead. They choose. So what does that look like in practice? It starts with one decision. Right now. You decide that from this moment on, you will no longer beg for attention. You will no longer overgive to prove your worth. You will no longer tolerate disrespect. You will no longer pause your mission to pursue temporary validation. From this moment, everything shifts. You prioritize discipline. You embrace discomfort. You face your flaws, not with shame, but with courage. You go to the gym not to impress, but to honor your body. You learn not to show off, but to sharpen your mind. You chase your goals with the same passion you once wasted chasing people who didn't value you. That's your new obsession. Becoming undeniable, becoming immovable, becoming the man you respect when you look in the mirror. And here's the best part. When you do this, the women come anyway. Not because you begged, but because you stopped. Not because you tried to be what they wanted, but because you became what you needed. And that's irresistible. A man who needs nothing is the man who gets everything. The one who walks away with dignity. The one who says no without fear. The one who speaks with calm conviction. He doesn't prove. He doesn't explain. He simply is. And that presence, it's magnetic. So if you've made it this far in the video, it means something in you is already waking up. You've seen through the illusion. You've felt the weight of your past behaviors. You know what needs to die, so you can be reborn. Don't waste this moment. Make a decision. Burn the old script. Write a new one. Starting now, you are no longer the man who begs. You are no longer the man who waits. You are no longer the man who breaks at the first sign of silence. You are the man who builds in silence, who thrives in solitude, who leads with intention. And the man who lives that way never has to ask for attention again. It finds him. Now take a moment and comment below with these words. From today I rise. Let that be your first declaration, your first act of leadership. And while you're at it, hit the like button if this message sparked something real inside of you. Subscribe to this channel so you never forget what this feels like right now. And most importantly, share this with a brother who needs it. Someone who's still stuck, still chasing, still doubting his worth. Be the reason he wakes up too. This isn't just another motivational video. This is your line in the sand. From this point forward, your life is no longer about trying to be enough for her. It's about becoming everything you were born to be. Power is reclaimed in silence. Respect is earned in solitude. And legacy is built in discipline. You don't need her approval. You don't need their validation. You don't need permission. You already have everything it takes. Remember this. You are not here to be liked. You are here to lead. You are not here to be chosen. You are here to choose. You are not here to chase, because you are the prize. From today, walk like it, live like it, lead like it. This is how the game changes. This is how the man is reborn. This is how you rise.